episodes left. If you thought it's been a treacherous journey this far, I can tell you, you haven't seen anything yet.
Sounds like a threat, doesn't it? And one I'm here to deliver on. Have I got some peak cringe for you? Might explain the viewing figures losing 50% of their audiences across season premieres, or 60% if you don't give them that extra day. And how can that happen to the most expensive TV show ever made with the perfect marketing strategy? Shipping. Yeah.
Do you feel bad that you got everybody to crush on you as Halbrand, and now you've revealed yourself to be absolutely the worst?
Rings of Power saw The Acolyte get cancelled. It's like, I see what you've done for them, and I want it from me. And for some reason, all of the shipping is just done towards pure evil. I don't know why. I know there's a famous saying, the greatest thing that Satan ever did was convince people that he didn't exist. But it turns out in modernity, why is he even bothering? If he appeared on Earth, half the population would want to bang him anyway.
Be careful, don't get sucked in by pretty faces.
This is somebody who literally signed up to work for Mordor, and he's like, oh, we ship him. Prime Video's joining in with Sauron. You'd fall for it too. I mean, why? You like filthy people? That's the only thing I can work out. Filthy, evil people.
She's an elf disgrace.
This marketing is just like The Acolyte, which was Star Wars at its most sexy and deadly, because it had a Sith that was hot, apparently. It was doing a different kind of fan service, because they were thirsting about men instead. And in fact, at this point, I do genuinely believe Rings of Power would do better if we just changed Sauron into Kate Beckinsale, because at least then the audience would understand the marketing. That I'd fall for it too? No, I don't get it. Whereas if he was that, they'd agree. This is why it's so important to cater your marketing to your audience. And with Rings of Power, that has been very few and far between. In fact, one of the few bits of marketing that I've actually liked is that Rings of Power has an accent problem. The dialects reek of classism and stereotypes. So I'm sold. Finally, you've actually added something into Rings of Power that feels British. But we are 4 episodes in, halfway through Rings of Power Season 2, after just 2 weeks. Gotta be honest, for $1 billion show, it's not a good way to make it profitable. Kind of feels like you're trying to cram them out the door because the moment the credits roll, everybody forgets what's happened. Definitely what happened to this poor journalist, Angel Shaw, who wrote The Rings of Power's Tom Bombadil debut is the exact mirror of Lord of the Rings. I think they've got dementia, as earlier they wrote, that's not Tolkien's Tom Bombadil in Rings of Power, but I kind of love it. This is the same author. Either Rings of Power is impossible to remember after you've seen it, or they've got dementia. I actually don't know, but I think I can sum up all 4 episodes in just a few seconds. That would be, what if WhatsApp was in Rings of Power? I need Coochie Queen!
Anatar inveigles his way into Celebrimbor's world, seduces him.
As Halbrand, Anatar, and not Sauron. Once again, Elrond's the only sane person out of the group. And then we have Gilgalad, or as Rings of Power marketing had him known previously.
A lovely individual called me Gilgadaddy in a coffee shop.
This is a particularly strange arc of the shipping marketing strategy.
It made me emotional. Gilgadaddy.
That they had in season 1, which I either didn't find or can't remember.
Hear a voice behind me say, are you Gilgadaddy?
The thing is, I only found those because of a season 2 clip, where it seems I'm not the only one that forgot about them, or rather, wiped them from my mind.
Broody, Gilgadaddy.
Broody, Gilgadaddy. Oh, gosh.
Did you look that up on the internet?
No,
What does
but
it mean?
it was sent to me.
He's like, no, I didn't know anything about it, no, promise. Someone just emailed it to me, honestly, I don't know anything more about it than that.
What does
but
it mean?
We
We don't have to talk about what
You know,
it means.
you might not.
I'd rather not.
As I kindly forget that people were coming up to me with the name. Never did find out what happened to them. I mean, I would say that's just a perk of the job of acting in Rings of Power. But let's face it, we know what the people that like Rings of Power look like. And this thread of thirst continued through everybody.
Owain and Sophia, if you had been in his shoes, would you have let Halbrand in?
It is a very innocuous question on the face of it, except this is Rings of Power, whose marketing strategy is shipping.
Charlie Vickers turns up at your doorstep. You know let him in.
I think we all know why Celebrimbor couldn't have turned Sauron down. That's definitely why he was allowed into his bedroom. I mean, Forge.
Anatar seduces him.
But the dwarves, Deezus and Fear, you can understand why she might want his Ring of Power.
Come in. What do you want for breakfast?
Yeah.
A piece of ears?
But no, it turns out when you're underground, you'll just take it wherever you can get it.
He's pleasing on the eye, let's say that. Yeah, I probably would, yeah.
So when the show isn't trying to make you thirst for evil, or ship characters which are thirsting for evil, no, instead they just see any 2 people together in the show at their banging.
Between Miriel and Elendil, is there something? There's a little something,
Vibes?
is there?
No, it's just vibes. Vibes. Of course, we don't have batteries in Numenor anymore, so I've got to get him to do it for me. The moment I can make my own vibes, though, he's off. And so when you get used to looking at all the marketing this way, when they keep telling you this is what to expect, I don't think it's my fault that I find this interview a little bit confusing.
That also makes you feel safe with your scene partner, so you can play even deeper, you can be even more serious. I really appreciated that.
Honestly, I'm not sure whether you're talking about acting in Rings of Power or adult movies.
We had so much fun doing it, even though that it was kind of painful at times, and it was the middle of the night.
You see what I mean? I'm not sure how to take these answers. It was really pleasurable, but it was painful, though, yeah. Those Ents, they can reach places you wouldn't believe.
Kind of indulged ourselves in laughing as well as working, and I think that makes it so much more pleasurable.
Yeah, you can't always do it seriously. Sometimes you need a little bit of laughter to make it more pleasurable. What? What are you even talking about anymore?
It took a while to decrust.
I hear it does if you do a thorough job.
I look up to Ismail. He's a powerful on-screen presence. Has inspired many, including myself.
Yes, he's powerful. An inspiration. He also talks about himself in the third person.
I personally would have. Ismail would have taken the rings.
Ismail.
No, there is no more context to that clip. I don't know why he did it. He was just talking about the role that he played as Arendelle, and then for some reason spoke about himself the same way.
Ismail would have taken the rings.
Ismail. Sauron.
Thank you.
I do love that they're clearly on a soundstage to fake clapping, and they're like, oh, thank you. It's just one guy. And just being the cameraman. Oh, it's so nice of you. Cheers.
Thank you.
And all of this is a combination of what the creators want and the target demographic that they're going for. People on antidepressants with cats who desperately want to live vicariously through the shipping of others. This target demographic isn't the audience of Tolkien, and so Lord of the Rings was never made for them. Its values don't represent them. And that means if you want to get that target demographic, if you want to get that audience, you have to change Tolkien. You have to change Rings of Power specifically for them.
Gilgadaddy.
This is the act of corrupting the work itself. It requires taking the original themes and subverting it specifically for it.
He's parasitic in that, like, anything that comes by, if he can use it, he's going to take it.
This act of taking something greater than you that somebody else has made, and then manipulating it for your own ends by projecting your desires onto it. There is actually a great quote about this, about how Sauron works, about how evil actually is meant to work in Rings of Power, and it's from the showrunners themselves.
The great deceivers, the great seducers, that's how they do it. They speak to you in the voice that you're most likely to respond to, and they let you kind of, project onto them, and, I think he's a master of that.
I did say it from the showrunners themselves, when it just seems to describe the showrunners themselves.
No evil person thinks they're evil, right?
Yeah.
The Rings of Power showrunners have always been great at pitching, at convincing people that they really want the best for this show. They really want the best for Tolkien. A couple of years ago, when they held a fan event in Oxford and London, they did speak to a lot of the Tolkien fan base, and they all reported similar things about the showrunners. I'm convinced they're the right people to adapt Tolkien's works. I love what I heard from them. Bought into their vision and dedication. Excellent. Their passion filled me with confidence. They know their Tolkien, and pretty much every concern and challenge I've thought about for the last few years. After meeting them, I feel the show is in very good hands. Passionate. Their passionate knowledge made me feel like they were one of us. The passion of these folks, faithfully bringing in the Second Age to life. Anyone who hears the showrunners speak could not doubt their respect for the writings of Tolkien and their in-depth knowledge, their desire to do justice to Middle-earth. Maybe this whole Sauron thing has some legs after all.
The great deceivers, the great seducers, that's how they do it. They speak to you in the voice that you're most likely to respond to, and they let you kind of, project onto them.
As the saying goes, write what you know. And I would advise sticking to what he knows, because when they try and expand on the more in-depth pieces of the work, the questions that normal people ask when they watch the show, where they go, that's stupid, why did that happen? They can't even explain it themselves.
You seem like a very intelligent, brilliant artist as a person.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as a character. Why did you let Halbrand in?
It's a very obvious question. Is Celebrimbor is so amazing, if he's so incredible, intelligent, and is sort of one of the leading minds of the Elvish land, one of the leading creators, why would he be stupid enough to let Satan in when he had specific instructions not to talk to him?
I mean, I'm screaming at the screen. Why would you break your promise to Galadriel like that?
Even the interviewer can't believe what's happening. It's like, this is obvious. Galadriel told you not to. It's like, yes, we all hate her, but come on. Not as if you had any reason to disagree with her. Why would this happen?
Well, he cast his spell in season 1.
So infiltrated.
Yeah.
Owain and Sophia.
Did you notice that? He barely gave an answer and then they just hard cut it. Fade out, go to the next thing. No. But he desperately tries to cut it. Well, he cast a spell in season 1. Whatever the rest of that answer was obviously so bad they couldn't show it and had to cut away in an extremely clunky and obvious manner.
So infiltrated.
Yeah.
Owen and Sophia.
And it's these reasons why the answer to the question, is Amazon's hugely expensive Lord of the Rings gamble starting to pay off? No, it isn't. They only created the article because the Rotten Tomato scores had shown improvement for the hotly debated show. But that's an irrelevant comparison when you lose 60% of your audience. Because that's 60% of your audience that would have reviewed it badly. Of course, the people that are happy with it stay around, which will lead to a more positive review score overall. Just a higher percentage with far less people, especially when what the article is bragging about is 69% audience score. Like, well, that might seem less than impressive, but the first season was 38%. Bragging about improvement when the score was in the gutter after you've lost 60% of your audience, it's not a good thing, it's not an impressive thing, but I do think it's the type of data point that would be put into a graph, into a PowerPoint presentation, and taken to executives at the company of reasons why this show is now a success. Never put the numbers into context, only show numbers improving. That means Moneyman has a false impression of success and the direction of travel. Similar to the watch minutes that we had, because obviously if Amazon doesn't publish them, people estimate. But the estimations of this led to Season 2's first 3 premiere being the biggest opening weekend of the year, even surpassing The Boys, which is particularly impressive when both shows had 3 episode premieres. Until they had to post afterwards that the viewing numbers reported may have been a bit preemptive. As for Variety's estimations to be true, it would require a 1,109% change from the previous estimations. And if your estimates are swinging from 1 to 11 times that number, I think it's safe to say you shouldn't be trusting any of them. But if there's anything that the showrunners have repeatedly wanted the audience to understand, it's that your opinions and your criticism have in absolutely no way changed this production at all. Yes, the one thing that the critics of the show have been giving the showrunners credit for, well, it at least seems like you may have tried to have changed something and, tried to react to the criticism, is the one thing they want to make everybody 100% aware that they don't care about. Your opinion. Because Variety talks about frustrated Tolkien devotees who have not been shy about vocalizing their displeasure with the liberties taken to Middle-earth lore and the deliberative pace of the storytelling. They mean boring. Incredibly boring. But despite that criticism, Payne, McKay, and Lindsay Weber remain steadfast in their commitment to their plans for the series. It's so tempting to find a narrative in why certain things in Season 2 feel different, but that was always just the plan. They want the audience to understand that your opinions had absolutely no impact on the show. Wild. Because even if they didn't, even if you had written the scripts before, at least go, no, obviously we took people's criticism to heart, and we built that into the series to make a series which we hope will satisfy them more. Take the win!
Exactly what you needed, the lost king who could ride you to victory.
We also get more figures about the cost of Rings of Power now, or at least the new cost, which is between roughly 100 million to 150 million per season, with 200 million being spent on the rights for the series in 2017, which studio insiders now insist is closer to the actual price tag, not the 250 million originally reported. It is interesting that leading up to Season 1, they really wanted to big up the numbers and try and make it sound more grandiose and expensive, and now they're playing down the numbers. And despite what some people may think about how, money works, and that viewing numbers are actually important. No, Sanders says the company remains really behind the show, and he expects that it will continue to drive people through all avenues of Amazon, including retail and music. We're looking to bring people to the service, and we're hoping we get lots of sign-ups again. Yes, the profit doesn't come from the viewers themselves for the show. No, it comes from some kind of ethereal funnel that they go through the Amazon ecosystem, which they definitely weren't already involved in before. This is probably the most surprising thing about the show, in that somehow my spending on Amazon will get linked to me watching Rings of Power. Me buying a water bottle will lead them to believe that Rings of Power is a success. Strangest business model ever thought into existence. But the thing is, despite that sort of, I would say, feigned confidence, the truth does shine through when Sanders refuses to confirm whether Amazon will be releasing viewership data, like they did for Fallout and The Boys. You remember The Boys. The one which Rings of Power was supposed to have beaten in viewership numbers. Guess we get our answer to that one then. Yes, we'll definitely be sharing it if there are things that really stand out, because they only share things that really stand out, that perform exceptionally well, like The Boys, which Rings of Power definitely didn't beat. And who can blame them when the best thing to come out of Rings of Power is the puns? Ain't it cool? Now we're Tolkien. And yes, I know they're awful puns. Still the best thing to come out of Rings of Power, though. Forbes came out once again and said that episode 4 is just another atrocious disaster. He really didn't like it when he learned before that a quarter of the dialogue for Tom Bombadil was pulled directly directly from the Fellowship of the Ring. But when the episode came out, of course, it's much worse than he'd imagined, as they also made Gandalf get eaten by a tree and found the Barrow Downs. At this point, Rings of Power is just stealing things that you like and hoping that that means you like this as well. They're desperately wearing the face of your wife and wondering why you don't love them.
You stupid woman with your weird child!
But after series, the old tactics just don't work anymore. The Rings of Power doesn't need to stick to canon. It honors Tolkien by expanding it. The more it destroys the canon, the more it respects Tolkien. He spins a little bit faster. The worse the show gets, the stupider the journalists you have to find for them to be willing to defend it. I mean, you know they've got a strong argument when they fall back on the Rings of Power's existence doesn't erase Tolkien's incredible writing from the world. Cooking me a meal today doesn't change any of the meals that I've eaten previously, but that's still not a reason for you to in it. Reinterpret, reinvent. That's the truest act of love I can imagine. Taking something and perverting it. This is what the new target demographic, the shipping audience, has done to quality. No, it's better now because it's different. Because it caters to me. You can always tell when they go, actually, no, it's richer because it has a fresh perspective. And you're like, I don't want a fresh perspective. I want Tolkien's perspective. What you mean by fresh perspective is you mean it's made for you now. It went over your head before. You couldn't really grasp it, could you? But now it's made for you. Now people are just banging all over the place, and that really hits you in the vibes. This is why places like the Mary Sue just find the criticism. It's just so boring and predictable. Don't worry, we all knew Rings of Power Season 2 was going to be trash. Doesn't mean there's not comedy value in it, though. Now, the Mary Sue's title is changed from the one it originally was. Rings of Power Fandom Hate Explained. The Mary Sue is here to educate you. Yet another series people online want to hate because, I guess, I don't get it. It's fun to watch. That's because you are the target audience. It is made for you. I can understand why you'd like it. The issue everybody else is it's not made for them. The audience of Lord of the Rings. It doesn't represent them or their values, which were also Tolkien's values, which is why they liked it in the first place. But you see a real problem when she's like, it's put angry men on alert, yes. They just don't like that people are breaking canon. They don't like people taking liberties with the show. The argument's not actually found in what Tolkien and his why would they care what his family want? What have they got to do with it? Do you know how I know that? Because the Tolkien estate is heavily involved in the show. Why would I care what the Tolkien estate wants? Is the Tolkien estate Tolkien? No, because he's dead. Which is generally why it's not a good idea to crap on what they want. It's called respect for the dead, Mary Sue. Don't you know, it's family that want money are consulting on it. Rings of Power's fascinating. It would be a great educational tool to teach people how not to make something. Was Halbrand really Sauron? Who's the stranger? Is it Gandalf or another wizard? When will all the different tribes of halflings get together to turn into hobbits in the Shire? This is fascinating. This is the exact audience I thought would love Rings of Power. We just have different expectations and quality standards in a show.
Throbbing.
And when I say I have different standards, I really just mean standards. It's good. Get over yourselves. Oh, she has spoken. She has come down from on high and unleashed her instructions to the common plebs. All you dangly bits beneath me, get over yourselves. Wait, why are you all the way up there? I'm supposed to be the one in power here. Every month, we have a new show to unpack and love. But there's all these angry people who are trying to ruin the fun for everyone else. They cry and complain. We saw it with The Acolyte. We're seeing it with Marvel shows. We're seeing it with Star Trek and The Boys. My favorite thing has always been angry people trying to ruin fun for everyone else. What they mean by that is I watch your videos, I see your complaints, and I realize you're correct, and it ruins it for me. And they blame the person for that. They blame the people talking for that, not themselves. Not for not realizing the issues and now suddenly realizing it, being unable to deny that these are genuine issues. They don't then turn to the show and go, why do these problems exist in the first place? No, the shipping audience just wants to sit back and not think about anything. They never would have noticed the problems on their own. But when they go and explore something in a video or on Twitter, when they realize what the issues are, they can't unsee it, and it ruins it for them. So how about if you don't like something, you just keep that energy to yourself? What about that? I don't care if somebody likes Rings of Power. It's not going to change my opinion on it, because it shouldn't. Why would it? But the same should go the other way round. Somebody simply going, this doesn't make any sense, shouldn't ruin your enjoyment of the show if they're incorrect. And if they are correct, then that means that is a problem with the show, and that should be fixed, and that's the show's fault. It is literally just screaming, I want to remain in my own ignorance so I can just thirst. That's the real thing with Rings of Power. They know their target demographic, and they're making a show for it. It's just that that audience isn't very big, and it's not the one of Tolkien. Hollywood makes shows to please the people that they're aiming at. The problem is, they just despise the majority of people, which is why there's so many people complaining that it's crap, because it wasn't made for them. Rings of Power isn't made for Tolkien fans, that's why it changes all the lore. But it was made for fans of shipping. It was made for people who will look at just two random people in Numenor and go, Mirrell's definitely banging him. It was made for people who are watching Rings of Power doing laundry, not really paying attention, so they simply don't notice the problems. But even they can't deny when someone comes along and points those problems out. Even they have their pleasure ruined by it. And the true lesson from that isn't that the person should shut up, that you should have higher quality standards for your entertainment, because by them affecting your enjoyment when they point out the problems, you're admitting they're correct. And they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be able to be correct. Rings of Power for $150 million a series, with the best talent around to make it, apparently. It should be better. Tolkien deserves better. And rather than crapping on the people who are just accurately describing the show, you really should be aiming that at Amazon. But you can't, can you? Because we saw earlier in the article the real problem that you have. That it was angry men, not of your preferred categories. Unlike the creators of the show you're defending. And so you can't target the show because it's made by people you like, whereas the ones which are accurately critiquing it are the people that you despise. And that would be too difficult for the Mary Sue to accept, because they'd have to contend with the ideological realization that they've been wrong all along.
Are we the baddies?
And they have a duty to change. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe, more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.